everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest. Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Brian, please introduce yourself in the name of your business.
Sure. My name is Brian Best, and I own BestMacs.
Awesome. We so look forward to learning more about what it is that you're doing there. But before that, we want to learn a little bit about your journey. And we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So tell us a little bit about your story.
So, my burn the ship was a little bit early in that I knew pretty early on, like I where I grew up, it was you're going to get a fast food gig. You're going to work in some restaurants, bussing tables, washing dishes. You're going to work retail. I'm a cashier. I'm a customer service desk guy at a department store, right? Finally break into technology. Technology is something I knew I wanted to be a part of. Got a gig fixing computers, got a gig finally doing that for a couple of years, get a gig in networking in an education environment in schools. And all of this happens at about age 24. I said, you know what? I'm going for it. Had a major life event, moved to Kansas City, and just said, hey, I'm gonna take a run at this and see if I can make a successful go. And here we are 26 years later, and we're still doing it.
Man,
so
that's
awesome.
Worked out. That's awesome. I always ask the question when someone shares they saw the entrepreneur journey early, because that it doesn't always happen like that. Did you have influences by family members, or was it just the parameters you were in, you just didn't want to be there?
No, it's funny. I think it was a combination of things. It might have been a little bit of a teenage rebellion, honestly, because my dad worked for the state for his entire career, basically, and he would always harp on me like, hey man, just get a good state job, you'll be set with a pension, you'll be set with benefits, and you'll it might not be lavish, but you won't be having trouble putting food on the table necessarily, right? And that's kind of how it was in my house. It wasn't anything, very definition of middle class, I guess you would say, in that we weren't necessarily struggling to pay bills, but there wasn't a whole lot of extra left over. And but we weren't going hungry or suffering like a lot of folks are. So, but he would say that. So I said, okay, you know what? I'll try it. I tried it for a year. I got a gig I mentioned the schools, right? I hated it, dude. I absolutely hated it. And I can tell you the story. There was an assignment that was made. So my shtick, one of my things is I'm really good at Apple gear. So Mac, iPad, iPhone. I was a Mac guy when Apple was doomed.
Okay.
Back in the 90s. So the project, the supervisor put me and three other folks on a project. He said, hey, our email system is kind of old. It's kind of lacking. A lot of people don't like it. Why don't you guys go out and explore, alternatives from the popular names that people are asking for and so on. So me and these three other folks, we sat down over a period of like 2 months, and we just set up demos. We put it through its paces. We tried it out on different machines. I was the Apple guy on the team, so it doesn't work on the Mac, et cetera, et cetera. We hand in our results. We say, hey, here's the thing we think we should go with. Let's go with this. And crickets. Oh, thanks guys. Thanks for your work. Appreciate it. A couple weeks later, we're like, hey, so any results from the email thing? He's like, oh yeah, we decided we're going to stay with what we got.
Oh man.
I'm like, I'm out. I'm so out.
Yes.
But like, what did I do? What did I just spend 2 months of my life working on? This is ridiculous. And there were plenty of people there, love them, but they were content with that. They were like, oh, all right, cool. Don't rock the boat. I don't care. It's just a paycheck. I couldn't do the just a paycheck thing. I felt like I had to be contributing to something bigger. I had to be doing something, and during that time, I'm just getting ideas. I bought this book. I can actually show it to you. I had it on another podcast. I bought A Complete Idiot's Guide to Starting Your Own Business.
Okay.
This thing, I bought it in like 97. I've still got all my notes in it, my little sticky notes and stuff. And at the time, I wanted it. My friends and I would go to the mall all the time. We were mall rats. I was an early 20s kid, right? And I would see vacancies in the mall. I'm like, I should put something in there. I'll open an internet cafe. Remember internet cafes?
Yes, I do.
I'm dating myself here in the late 90s. But yeah, like I'm gonna open a net cafe. We're gonna play games, and everybody's gonna come in. It's gonna be awesome. Um, when ended up going to my first 2.5 years of college were kind of a waste. Directionless. I knew I wanted to do computers, but back then in the mid 90s, when you went to college for computers, you were either going to be a hardware engineer, meaning you were going to design the logic boards and the power supplies and so forth. You're actually going to build the hardware, or you were a computer science major and you were going to write code.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I knew pretty quickly I didn't want to do either of those things. I was better at the code. I'd already been doing coding to some degree at that point, but I remember sitting in a computer lab. Uh, we have an assignment due the next day. It's like 2 a.m. and I cannot get this program to compile. Like, what the hell is going on with this program? And struggling, struggling, struggling. Finally, some guy walks behind me, taps me on the shoulder, goes, "You're missing a semicolon on line 8." I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" I put
Oh
the
my goodness.
semicolon, it compiles, I go to bed.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am not doing this for the rest of my life. It is not happening. IT didn't exist at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It just you couldn't go to school to get a career in IT. It didn't exist. They couldn't teach it. But that's what I ended up realizing hindsight being 2020. That's what I wanted. That's what I ended up doing. And so it was this intersection of I know I want to do IT. I know I want to start a business because I've worked, all my jobs to that point had terrible bosses. I had seen the ineffectiveness of the school thing, and so that's why I burned the ship. Basically, I'm going to take a run at this, and we're gonna see if I can make it go, because I do not want to go back to this. I don't want to, and sadly, I ended up. It's kind of another story we could tell a little later in the pod, but
Uh-huh.
I did end up going back to a job for a few years.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
It
that's
sucked.
that story, which that's why we're here today. So I'm glad you didn't conform to it. Your story in college sounds like a lot of my buddies who were CIS majors, and they were always talking about that JavaScript and how that stuff wasn't working correctly. And I was like, okay, okay, well, that's definitely relatable there. So you
Yeah.
went ahead and said, hey, I'm gonna be done with this. I'm not gonna, get into the actual corporate formation. I'm going to go out here and start my own thing. Tell us a little bit about how you got started. How'd you get your first clients? Tell us how that ball picked up and started rolling.
All right, so I'd love to tell you that it was like all grit, but there was an element of that. So, I'm like, what do I do here? Well, I knew I wanted to work on Apple Gear. And so I thought about, who uses Apple Gear. And again, this is 1999. Well, 98, 99. Officially the business started in October 99. I'm like, well, who uses Apple Gear? Creative agencies, ad agencies, marketing, video, print production. That's where a lot of that stuff lives. Let's go out and start meeting people. So I did. I put on a nice shirt and knocked on doors. I went and cold called effectively in person. And one of the very first visits I made was to a small agency in Lawrence, Kansas, and knocked on their door and saw they had, Apple Gear in their offices. And I was like, "Hey, do you guys need any help with these?" And it was a bit of serendipity because they were like, "Yes, get back here, come here." And I worked on something. I billed them,
Mm-hmm.
$60 an hour at that point, and got it done. And that just led to more and more. And another serendipitous landed with a guy walked in a print house. Do you guys need help? He's like, "I don't need help, but boy, is it your freaking lucky day," because people were coming to him and asking him who he knew, and he didn't know anybody.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's
And
good. That's
so,
good.
he put me through the ringer and decided I was a worthy referral. And yeah, I got a bunch of business from that. Some are still clients today.
Oh man, that's great to
So
have. You said 26 years now. That's a
yeah,
long time to have that relationship. That's good to show that you're servicing the clients as you were building up the business. So you started door knocking. Sounds like you
hmm
got a little bit of word of mouth. Were there
hmm
any other things that you added that really that primed the pump for you that helped you to accelerate that business growth?
Well, here's the thing. It's again, I kind of told you about some of my family background, so it wasn't like I could go to mom and dad and ask for an investment, right? And we didn't have any rich relatives or anything like that, so it was definitely bootstrapped. That was my only option. A bank. You're a 24-year-old kid. You want a loan? Get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that wasn't going to happen. Well, I ended up getting a gig. Oh, did I lose camera, or is
Yeah,
that just?
yeah.
There it goes.
It did for
Okay.
a second.
So the um, took me off my train
You
of
were saying
thought.
it was
Yeah.
bootstrap. They wouldn't give
Yeah.
you a
So
loan.
bootstrapping, I ended up getting a gig. When I first moved to KC, I was like, well, I got to get a job. I'm going to try to run this business, but I'm not going to be able to live off of this business unless like I really hit it gangbusters. And I think that's probably the scariest part for a lot of folks that want to burn the ship, that want to get going is, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to take care of my family? That sort of thing. Um, this is where I got a little bit lucky in that I applied for a gig. It was a training gig. They were going to send me all over the country to do 2 and 3 day troubleshooting seminars. So you go into a hotel room, and I'm going to stand at the front of the room, and I'm going to show you how to fix a computer. Um, and so I was on the road 26 weeks out of the year doing that. And when I signed it, they said, look, this is a 1099. 24 years old. I should have known what a 1099 versus a W-2 was. But this is a contractor gig. I'm like, well, what am I doing the other 26 weeks out of the year? They're like, we don't care. As long as you don't go work for these people,
Mm-hmm.
we don't care what you do. I'm like, awesome. So, my clients were usually very forgiving of the fact that, hey, I'm out of town this week. I'll see you on Saturday, or I'll see you next week, or whatever. And they were thankfully most of them. Some of them were just like, no, not waiting. But most of them were really cool with that.
And you were
Um,
able to navigate that for how long?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, it took
Okay.
4 years, and
Okay.
then finally the business grew enough. I signed a very large client at that point that basically replaced that income that I was making from that travel and road show, dancing bear routine, and
Really?
the
You
yeah,
serious?
well,
Oh, okay, okay, okay,
no,
okay.
no,
I was
no,
about to say what? I know. I
no,
said I
no,
haven't
no.
heard that one before.
No, get up on stage and be the
Yes,
dancing
I
bear.
was
Here's
like,
how you fix a
what's
computer.
happening?
Let's
Yes,
take it
yes,
apart.
yes.
And
I got
it
you.
was almost the same thing. I loved it. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a little bit of showmanship associated with it, but it was good training. I think a lot of folks got value out of it. But it was nice to not eventually business travel. It all looks the same. I've been to
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh. Yeah, I've been to Pittsburgh's airport to a hotel
Hotel.
back to the airport.
Right, right, right,
Yeah.
right.
Um,
That client that you said that you were able to bring on and help to offset something that you have been doing for the past 4 years. What did that client look like? Is it still a good client for you to take on right now? Tell us about that.
yeah, they were about 100-person ad agency, and their IT guy had just quit. He put in his 2 weeks. They decided that they wanted to look at outsourcing in addition to hiring,
Mm-hmm.
and knew a bunch of folks that I was already supporting. And so they brought me in for an interview, and it worked out. It worked out great. They're still a client today. They're not the same business they were,
Mm-hmm.
but we're over 20 years together at this point. And still love the hell out of them. They changed my whole existence, really.
Yeah.
That was a big turning point for us, in that I'm not traveling anymore. I'm living off of my business that I founded at this
Yes.
point, which
Yes.
was an incredible moment.
That's huge. What are some of the services that you provide out there for these businesses?
So these days, today, I like to say, we are effectively our clients' IT departments. It's kind of the same thing I did for that organization 20 years ago, in that soup to nuts,
Mm-hmm.
everything from CIO type functions like planning and strategy, and how do we make technology improve the bottom line of this business, all the way down to have you rebooted your computer, turn it off, turn it back on again, and everything in between. Inventory management, cybersecurity is like table stakes at this point. If you're in IT and you're not doing cyber, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
So yeah, it's and so if one of our small business clients, let's say 50 people, 20 people, that's probably too small a business to hire a full-time, maybe even a part-time IT person to run the IT show.
Mm-hmm.
But they would expect, I'm paying this W-2 to do all the tech. Well, that's what they expect from us too. And so we
Okay.
just do that. We make it flat fee, easy to budget, same amount every month, but we're going to do everything that you would expect an IT person to do for your company.
Now, I know you can remote into things. What is your preference as far as with your business? Do you want to be in close proximity that you can go and touch them in a short period of time, or does it matter to you having someone in California or Florida?
No, we're 99.9% remote.
Okay.
The pandemic obviously was awful, but one of the positives you can take out of it is that people understood the value and the feasibility of remote work.
Hmm.
They get it now. It's not scary. So, in the past 5 years, we've gone national. My last three clients I signed: Chicago, SLO, California, and Orlando, Florida.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, I mean we're all over the place at this point. And we love it. So obviously KC and the greater Kansas City area is still our base. We still get a lot of clients out of here. That's obviously where I'm doing all my in-person networking.
Hmm.
But no, we'll if it's a good fit, I will gladly take a client from anywhere.
Right, right. It's awesome to hear that you're managing those services. I just got one more thing to talk with you about the realm of where you are. When it comes to the hardware, the equipment, the computers, can you share with the audience why it is important to come to a professional like you for those types of things instead of looking in the sales paper and trying to make that decision?
So let me maybe get away from IT for a second and think about an analogy that might resonate a little bit more immediate with your audience, with business owners.
Hmm.
Um, think about your bookkeeper for a second. Think about your difference between your bookkeeper and your accountant. And it's kind of the same dichotomy, and this story always comes to mind for me because, again, as a 24-year-old kid who read a business book and maybe took a couple of night courses on how to run a business, I'm like, I can handle my taxes, no problem. Yeah, well, it's just some forms you fill out, who cares, let's get it done. Oh, the IRS loved that.
Oh, yeah,
Let
I
me
can
tell you,
believe it.
that was a fun treadmill I was on for years before I was able to get myself off of that treadmill. It's like, wait, what do you mean I owe you a whole bunch of money? Can I make monthly payments? Sure. Next year? What do you mean I've been making monthly payments? Yeah, that was for last year.
Mm, mm.
Well, crap. And around we go. All right. Got
That's
to get
right.
off of that mess. And, if I
Hmm.
had hired a qualified, a good accountant right out of the gate, probably wouldn't have had that problem. But
Hmm.
I'm like, it's just numbers. I can handle filling out forms, no problem. I think it's the same kind of thing with IT, right? So if you're a tiny business, you're founder led, you're soloist up to 5 people, you're managing the day to day. You know how to Google problems. You know how to ask ChatGPT. My computer's doing this. What could it be? And you're going to get a bunch of things. You'll be able to figure that out. What you're going to be missing is that higher level. Well, hey, let's think about the age of the machine. Let's think about how the bad guys are trying to get in. I mean, cyber is terrifying, should be terrifying for a small business owner, because there's bad guys out there. They want your money, they want your reputation, and they're better at computers than you are.
Hmm.
That should be terrifying. And don't think, everyone's like, I got an antivirus, I'm in the cloud. That's not helping. um, so those are, it's, again, yes, are you handling your day to day? Sure. um, as you get bigger, and if, to their credit, some folks, I have some clients that are, two, three, four, 5 people. They just kind of understood, I don't like this. I don't want to deal with this. I want to hand this off. And frankly, I feel like they're better off for it, obviously.
Hmm.
But, as they grow, you get to 20 people. I think 20 people is kind of the sweet spot, I think, for a lot of founders, where they're just seeing a stack of computers sitting on their desk from former employees, and they got to repurpose them, but they're too busy. So they're spending money they don't need to be spending. They've got license costs, monthly recurring license costs from like Microsoft or Google or whomever, that they're paying, that they're just not managing right. Because same way you would hire an accountant, to say, hey, look, here's some tax breaks you're not getting. Here's some forms that we can fill out to save you money. You should be spending money at the end of the year, so you're in a lower bracket. Those sorts of strategies. Well, it's kind of the same thing in IT. I'm going to look at your cyber. I'm going to say, here's a plan. Here's a checklist. Here's what we're going to do if this happens. Here's what we're going to do if you can't access your Google Workspace tomorrow. You know, these sorts of things.
Okay.
So this kind of higher level thought. So it goes way beyond just it's broken. We're not repairmen. There's
Hmm.
plenty of computer repairmen out there, and a lot of them are my friends. I love them. They got great businesses. It's just not what we do. Same way, I'm not a bookkeeper versus accountant
Hmm.
versus
Hmm.
controller. So
Cool. Makes a lot of sense. Now, I am confident that over your time, your journey that you have been going through school, in the corporate world, definitely now being an entrepreneur for over 2 decades, you have come across some business skills that you have acquired and nurtured and made your own, some best practices that have helped you to be successful. Do you mind sharing with the audience some of those best practices that they may add to their mix?
yeah, sure. It's so, in my mind, the bar for running a successful small business in 2025 is such a low bar to clear. Like it's so simple. It's just like do what you say you're gonna do, and as often as you can when you say you're gonna do it. Things are gonna go wrong, so make them right. Just own it and do your best to make amends, and don't be a jerk. It's really a lot of it is that simple. Sometimes it's just as simple as we pick up the phone.
Hmm.
We return the phone calls. We return the email messages. We stay in communication. It's mind blowing to me when I try to reach out for a service and I have to chase them. I'm like, I'm chasing you to take my money. Like, this is ridiculous.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
so, you know, there's, there's such a thing as if you find yourself in that scenario, hopefully the answer is you got so much work and you're doing great and you're comfortable and you're like the doctor who's referral only now, because like, okay, I've got a base of my clients, I'm happy, I don't need to grow anymore. I'll let you know if somebody leaves, and then I'll offset churn by bringing on somebody else. But if you're not in that mode, if you're struggling, I'll give you an example. At one point in time at BestMacs, we opened up a retail shop, and we did that for 4 years, and I'll never do it again.
Okay.
And it was a weird dichotomy because sales was brutal. Sales, we were making 8% margin on gear, and we had like competition out the wazoo for that. So sales were abysmal. But service, repair of computers was nuts. It was so bonkers. And that's where I learned firsthand that too much business is actually worse than not enough business. Not enough business. It's kind of like I'm struggling. I'll do whatever I can. I'm hungry. All of us go through that as bootstrappers. We'll take on just about anything because it's like, hey, I need work, and that sucks. But you do that. Too much business is awful because you have more work than you can handle, and customers are getting mad at you. That computer's been sitting on your shelf for 2 weeks. What have you done with it? Nothing, because we're backlogged. That that's why I'm not in retail. I'm like, no, this is unsustainable. We can't do this.
Hmm.
I cannot run a business like this and just you know do that to people. So if you're in that position, you're thinking, I'm drowning, but I'm not making ends meet. It's take some time and really think hard about your margins, your operations, how you're doing things, and maybe you just need to pivot.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do. I had to pivot hard out of that retail environment into what I've been doing for the last 15 years now, and that's that managed service outsourced IT concept that I talked about earlier.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. Try to keep things as simple as you possibly can. Just do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
Those simple rules can help send you a long way. And I like how you brought up, if you have too much business, that could be a problem too, because what happens, our clients are accustomed to a certain customer service level.
Yeah.
And once you take on too much work, you can't provide the same thing, and it ends up having a negative effect on you. So that makes a ton of sense, and I definitely appreciate you sharing those points. Now, as we were going through, you shared a lot about yourself, your journey, your business, what you have going on, and how you're helping now. But we want to talk about you, Brian, yourself. We're going to stop talking about BestMacs, and we're going to talk about Bryant. Now, let's just say that you're able to manage everyone in Kansas, everyone in America, everyone in the world. Let's go ahead and get our imagination going big. And time and money is no issue at all. You don't have to worry about work, don't have to worry about time or money. What is it that Brian would do at this time?
It's a hard separation to make, and I imagine a lot of your audience feels this way, in that, my business and I are so intertwined. There's no such thing as work life balance, right? Like,
No, it's not.
I'll hang up this call and I'll go downstairs and play a game with the kids for a little bit. I have three sons, all in their 17, 13, and 11 at this point. And so it's kind of one of these. I know my years are numbered with these guys now. It's like, we're enjoy being a dad for a little bit longer, but man, those that time is getting short. It flies by. Um, and so just, and the great Zig Ziglar once said, "Kids spell love Time." And I've known that, and again, that's influenced the business a lot. So, but if I take the business out of the equation, I'm never going to retire. I mean, I might be forced to retire before I actually do it. My hope is these guys will take over at some point. I'm going to give them right of first refusal. If they all get to age 25 and they don't want it, well, maybe I'll look at selling it.
Okay. Uh-huh.
We'll see. But uh, when I'm not working, we love traveling. My wife and I have an RV. We go around the country at least 2 or 3 times a year. We take a nice 10, 12-day road trip, and we go to various places. Our last one, we went from Kansas City up to Acadia National Park in Maine,
Okay.
which was fantastic. The kids like it. They get a little homesick, but it's good. It's good to get them
Right.
away from their environment, get them
Hmm.
off their technology for a little bit, get them off their iPads,
Hmm.
and go make some memories. It's fantastic. That's what I love.
Okay. Good.
Um,
What's your next destination? Where are you guys going next, or have y'all
we're
planned it
looking
yet?
southwest. I think we're heading to Arizona and Southern California.
Okay.
Is what we're planning now. And since my Chiefs probably aren't going to make the playoffs this year, I'll have a lot of January to kill.
Well, well,
And
you in that statement now, you just made a lot of people smile more. I think you
my
might.
camera went out. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know.
They
Yeah,
get to
yeah.
see
Hey,
how that worked. That's crazy how
the
that
hate is
worked right
real.
there.
I
You know what I'm
understand.
saying? That's nuts.
It's
That's
all
nuts.
good. It's all
Yes,
good.
yes. I'm just messing with you. It's
I
it's
know,
all
man.
good.
It's all
When
right.
you have success like that, and then it doesn't happen for people who don't have success like that with their favorite teams. It's like, good. Now you know how the rest of us feel. But
You know, somebody said it was like being a lottery. We've been a lottery winner. Been millionaires for 7 years now, and now the money's all dried up, and we're like, well, crap. I'm back to the playoff predictor, and what are my
yes.
odds of it? It's like, this
Yes.
sucks.
Yes, I'm back to regular now, like everyone else every week.
Well, and a friend told me, Brian, nobody feels sorry for you. Nobody feels sorry for any Chiefs fans, and
No,
that's fair.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Us in the other side of the NFL, no, I'm sorry, we don't. But
Yeah, nobody cares.
it is good though. I mean, you guys are
It's
still
all good.
always there. I mean, it's been such a good run. You
Oh
always can
yeah.
live off of that run for sure. Even if nothing else happens for the remainder of time, you can live off what
hmm
you got right now. So,
I
so
got
you,
three Super Bowl
yeah,
hats. I mean,
yeah.
I'm happy.
I'm about to
Yeah, I'm
say
good.
no love lost from the others, but outside of that, we do want to make sure that the people who are watching, if they do have any questions when it comes to your journey, those managed services that you're providing, Brian, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so if you go to the website bestmacs.com, it's my last name, BestMacs, like Macintosh plural, bestmacs.com. You go up there, my contact info's there. You can absolutely call me, email me, Brian with an I at bestmacs.com. Um, but we've got videos up there, kind of talk about how we do things, the way we do it. You can grab a Calendly right there, book a time, and let's chat.
Awesome. That's a good deal. Now, all of the guests that come on, we truly do appreciate them for doing that, taking their time, because it's not always easy to share those up, down, and all around and express it. You've done such a great job at doing that today, and I want to honor you by giving you the last word. So please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
So I mentioned how if you're not doing IT, or if you're doing IT without cyber, you're not doing it right. For those of you that are still, kind of on the smaller side, and running your own shop, the key thing that I always tell people with cyber is trust but verify. So distrusting everything is unproductive. It's just going to make you paranoid. It's not going to help. Trust is human nature. But anything inbound at this point, the bad guys only talk to you when they need your help.
Okay.
So if they're saying, "Oh, there's a virus on your computer," or "Hey, I caught you doing this thing and you got to send me some Bitcoin," just ignore it. Just get on with your life. They're asking you for help. And once they get in, they don't want you to know they're there. They're going to do everything they can to make sure you don't know that they're present until they're ready to strike and do their thing. So again, anything inbound, you don't have to necessarily distrust anything inbound right out of the gate, but just verify it. If you get an email from your bank saying, hey, you spent $5,000 on this thing, don't click on the link in the email. Go to your bank. You know how to log into your bank. Is there a $5,000 charge there? Of course there's not, because it was just the bad guys. Trust but verify.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those wise words. And thank you so much for coming on the show today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.